Today we have Josh, the co-founder and CEO of Season Health, the integrated food as medicine platform, merging clinical care with accessible meals for sustainable health choices. Prior to Season Health, Josh founded Plated, which shipped millions of meals to over 95% of the United States before being acquired for 300 million or so. We can verify that, but by Albertsons Grocery Brands in 2017. He has a lifelong interest in health and nutrition. Josh received his MBA from Harvard Business School and a BS in electrical engineering from Georgia Tech. Josh, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you've had a great journey from studying electrical engineering, participating in Shark Tank, which we're going to kind of cover a bit of all of this, founding the first food as a medicine platform in the US. I want to just share, we'll be covering a bit on your lessons learned and your journeys with ZWise and Plated, and obviously then get to Season Health, where you are currently at. So after your bachelor's in electrical engineering, you co-founded ZWise, and that was a database aggregation tool for franchise and retail businesses. Unlike your CEO role in future companies, you led at ZWise for 4 years or so as a chief technology officer. I'm curious, in looking back now, has being the CTO at a company, did that help you in your experiences as the CEO with other companies? Has that always, has that been helpful, or are there things that you can extract from that experience and coming from that angle for a company and a business?
Yeah, I think a bit, but probably not the way that you might think. What I would say is being a founder was by far the most transferable experience. I think that is the more unique experience. I think that people sometimes think that being close to the founding experience or around it or an early employee is, similar, and it's probably helpful in some small way, but I believe that there's nothing like doing it. And so the co-founder part of that is it's definitely the most transferable. Certainly, I think there's, there are leadership and team building lessons and other sort of management pieces that are transferable, but by and large, I would say it's the founding part.
I love hearing that. So there is nothing like a founder CEO being in that seat and driving and making all these from big to micro decisions, leading teams. Are there any with ZWise being the CTO, were there still a number of experiences or lessons learned from the outreach, from signing those first customers? I always love learning, how did you sign up that first customer? Who was that first customer? What channels worked for you best? I know that as a CTO, you might have not had as much exposure to that, but or maybe you have, and you do remember these things.
Yeah. This is what I'm trying to say. I was CTO, yes, but really I was co-founder and CTO.
Oh, got it. So you did.
That's the double underline I'm trying to make here. It's the co-founder part that I think is probably most relevant for folks, because that meant that I did have a lot of exposure to the sales process and the fundraising process, and a lot of things that are not traditionally part of the job description of a CTO.
Okay. And for ZWise, do you remember what was the first franchise or retail business that you guys signed up? And one, how did that feel? And two, what worked in terms of acquiring these customers as a founder?
Yeah. if someone told me that they didn't remember the first sale in their business, I would really wonder what was wrong with that.
Yeah.
I will never forget that, even though I don't know that it's necessarily all that helpful to folks. The way that business got started, and keep in mind, is as much as this will date me, this was 2003. So this is a wildly different world.
Yep.
We started that business as really a consulting business. We were building product for people that wanted something built. So our journey to product market fit was one where a customer asked us to build something, we built it, and then after some time concluded that there were other customers that might look like that. So the first customer was really one that was a consulting customer who asked us to build some, essentially I would describe it today as business intelligence reporting type software.
So you started services, something that is not as scalable, let's say, and it was understanding the demand from that services, I guess, from that product of services that you realize there could be more people that could use this and need this. And was it when you did see the match or make the connections that there were a number of people that could use this, was there a particular shift in the way that you introduced what you were doing? And were there new ways in which you were introducing that?
I think, as in my experience is almost always the case, we were changing the way that we introduced ourselves by the day, or if not the hour.
Yeah.
And it might sound funny, but in all
No, that
seriousness,
is the reality. I laugh because it is so true. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, based on the last conversation, which version of the description and the language seemed to land with people. We'd change how we described ourselves. We'd change, hopefully intelligently, based on what we thought the folks were looking for, emphasizing different value propositions. So yes is the short answer.
And
Again, over
yeah.
20 years ago now.
Yeah. So I know that especially when you talk about customer acquisition and channels, and you're talking about something that happened way back, it's not as helpful because so many things change and they change rapidly. So I totally get that. So let's after ZWise, you co-founded Plus Scorn. Is that how you pronounce it? And I know that was a super, and I'll share with you why I want to cover this, because I've seen this happen to a number of founders. A number of friends have gone through this experience. So and did I pronounce it right? Is it Plus? Oh no, Plus CS. How do you pronounce it? I just want to make sure.
Alejandro, the real lesson here is don't be cheap and get a real name.
I'm sure you had this. Yeah, go ahead.
What we were trying to get at there was plus screen.
Oh, plus screen. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That I mean, once you say it,
Don't be
I
cheap,
see
folks.
it.
Buy your vowels.
So you co-founded Plus Screen in June of 2011, and served as CEO until December of 2011. And so a couple months at that time when it was acquired by Fluent Mobile. And what can you share a little bit about that particular experience and why the sell, or what was happening in that moment? Because I know that a number of founders have gone through that or might be going through that now and are trying to gauge what questions they should ask themselves, or how to think about this. What did it look like in your world?
Yeah. What I would say about all of these experiences is there's no one way to do anything. And I actually think that it doesn't get enough airtime in startup land. I think most people kind of default to, I have an idea or I find an idea and we just immediately raise money and like that's the path. And I guess what I would encourage folks to think about is, are there other ways to achieve what I'm trying to do? Maybe the first question is, what am I trying to achieve? Like, what is my goal? And building a $1 company is one goal. It's not the best answer. It's probably not even a good answer for a lot of companies or teams or so on. And this is Plus Screen as an example of this. We didn't really set out to. This was me with one of my closest friends from undergrad, working on some new ideas. We were building software in 2011 around the sort of early app store years, and around the time when HTML5 was getting a lot of attention. Really just building software for fun. And of course, we were looking for use cases, but this was not at that point in time meant to be raise a ton of venture and be huge, and that was not the path of
Got it.
The thinking. It was, let's build something for fun. We'll see what happens. We'll see what use it might be, to whom, and so on. It was much more exploratory. And what ended up happening was, pretty quickly, it became apparent that the best use for what we built was in the mobile advertising space, which was not something that we knew anything about. And pretty quickly realized that, it was a exciting answer to sell the technology, the company, but it was really, a product to a mobile advertising company.
And how was it that you figured out that it made sense for mobile ad? Was that just part of the campaigns of segmenting and reaching out to a ton of different people saying, hey, this is what it is, this is what we do, and you kind of got more of a bite from that side, or was it a bit different?
No, you're transforming it, and you're doing it. You're doing that thing. This was not like two guys in a room, like, how do we take over the world? Let's run campaigns and put it all out there and see who bites. Like, that's not what was happening. It was two guys having fun. We were building products for the joy of it.
Got it.
Having conversations organically. And I'm not suggesting that this is the right way to do it. I don't think there is a right way to do it. Simply what we were doing at the time. And some of those organic conversations were with folks in the mobile ad space. And it just became increasingly clear that that's where the interest was. Those were the people that leaned in. We were working out of co-working spaces pre-WeWork. We were just meeting people. We were just building for the joy of building.
Perfect.
And
but it did happen. Those conversations did happen from somewhere. So you were at a co-working space, and as you're sharing these fun things that you were building, someone that happened to be from that industry, or maybe not, said like, hey, that could work for so-and-so.
Yeah, more or less. Just, I think everybody knows when you're having a conversation with somebody and they're interested in what you're talking about. They lean in. You can tell, when somebody versus like, they just, all right, just hurry it up. I can go get some coffee. Like, when someone's interested, and where, the conversations that people were interested in were coming from the mobile ad world.
And so let's jump into Plated. Let's talk about Plated here. I heard, okay, so that Plated you created along with a Harvard Business School classmate. Can you share a little bit about what Plated did, who were its customers, and what problem was it solving?
Yeah, so Plated, in my opinion, was a much more classic example of a venture-backed startup. There was a problem in mind that we had, which I think is a fairly classic consumer startup pattern, that we wanted to solve. And it was very obvious that in order to solve it, to at least make a dent in the problem, we would need to, scale very large, very quickly, and that all of that would take a lot of capital, and venture capital is, well suited to those kinds of problems, I think. So our problem was we just wanted to eat better. We were living in Manhattan. We were having the experience that I think a lot of people do. We were eating takeout, for every single meal. And when we did try to cook, it wasn't all that great. Neither of us were, impressing the people we were cooking for or happy with it. And we just wanted that to be a better experience. We ended up with a lot of food waste because we were only cooking a couple of times a week. We, didn't really know what we were doing. There was a lot of room for improvement in that experience. We thought there was, a way to do that. So we got started, very, very much in a different pattern. We got started with big goals. This was a case of two guys sitting in a room, trying to figure out how to take over the world, proverbially, and knew that we would need to raise money. And so, set about like finding the earliest customers and proving there was traction so that we could go raise, and just get the ball rolling.
How did you find those first customers? Were they friends, family? I mean, when you're doing a product for consumers, did it matter who were you reaching out to and introducing this idea to?
Yeah, of course, the first customers were friends and family. I feel similarly about this question. If someone were telling me that they built a consumer product and their friends and family weren't using it, that would be an enormous red flag. Why not?
Right.
If you can't get the people who love you to use your product, it's probably wrong.
It's a bad sign. How do you know? And look, I've never done a consumer product. All my experience has been with businesses. For a consumer product, when you do have the family and friends, how can you figure out what is said because of them loving you and what is actually real, and what type of feedback you can get from it, and how do you figure out from those conversations what directions to actually take? Like, how do you prioritize that?
Yeah, I think it's actually pretty simple. Ignore everything they tell you.
Okay.
That was our approach, at least.
Got it. So don't take any feedback from them. Let them share things with you and ignore it. And then after you ignore your family and friends, what do you do next?
Find some real customers.
And how did you go about doing that with Plate It? What were some of the things that you did to help you?
Yeah. This is, again, remember it like it was yesterday. I would caution anybody against taking customer acquisition advice that's more than a few months old. So this is not the channels and everything else are vastly different, the techniques and tactics, but we were running paid ads at very, very small volume. I think our original budgets were like $100 a week. And doing everything and anything we could to generate awareness, which was very, very guerrilla / in the vein of like do things that don't scale. It was posting on Craigslist board. I mean, it was anything, everything. Tell everybody, just sort of generate as much energy and momentum around it as possible, and be okay with the fact that it's going to be very small at first. So we were generating.
Were you targeting communities? I'm guessing communities are
everything. No. Alejandro, everything.
Oh, everything.
Do everything. Tell me you're a consumer business and you're not doing everything. You're not living and breathing and sleeping and eating this. I'm going to have to talk to you. Targeting communities, man. We're targeting everything. We posted in the co-working space. We posted on Craigslist. We were running some ads. We were telling our friends. We at one point we went out into Union Square and we're handing out flyers. I mean, do everything. At least at that time, that was what we thought we should do.
And from doing everything, it sounds like the Google ads were one of the, at that stage, obviously, were one of the channels that was bringing you more qualified leads, I'm guessing. Or no, it was all over the place in terms of where you were getting awareness, generating awareness, and all of that.
What I would say is that in those earliest days, and I honestly don't remember if this is exactly how we thought about it then, but certainly in hindsight, what I would say is,
right,
in the earliest days, it had nothing to do with actually acquiring customers. It wasn't about figuring out which channels will scale or any of that sort of optimization, kind of thinking. It was about just finding the first handful of invaluable people who would give us honest feedback. So what we were doing was we were generating traffic from anywhere, from everywhere. Just be scrappy, just stop overthinking it and just generate some traffic. 5 people a week, whatever it is, right? Small numbers. And then we were sitting there on chat. At the time was a relatively novel channel, but just a little chat box on the website. And I mean, just literally the 2 of us. And we would chat with the website visitors. We're talking a handful of people a week. Like, we could talk to everybody that came to the site. Hey, nice to meet you. I promise you, this is a real person. This is one of the founders, whatever the messaging is. How'd you find us? Why are you here? What can we tell you? What are you seeing on the website that you have questions about, that you like, that you don't like? And we were refining stuff in real time. And I don't mean to make this sound like this is a very precise process, because it's not, but it's just customer interviewing. It's just talking to people. And I'm sure there are many ways to do this, and probably better ways even back then, but this is what we were doing. And we were refining the messaging, whether it was in ads or us standing in Union Square, and the website and all of it. And it took a while, or what felt like a very long time, several weeks to several months, before a woman named Connie came to the website. I chatted with her for, I think it was 2 or so hours, honestly.
Wow.
Before she finally agreed to put her credit card into this random website. And she was a customer for a very long time.
Wow. And after she signed up, this happens a lot, and I'm curious, and it's like the balance between testing your idea, right? Because this is what you were doing. You had this idea, you had this idea for this product. You're reaching out to as many people as you can. Those few that came, you were right there. You're being yourself. You're human. You were having interactions with them, trying to get as much feedback as you can from them. And when you do sign someone up like Connie, did your product deliver with her? I mean, I'm guessing if you had her for a long time, it did. Were there complications between making sure that stuff did work, and did you lose a lot of people in those early stages that did try it for the first time? Because I know it's and personally for me too, right? Like, it's such a hard balance between doing something, that MVP version, testing the idea, signing people up, and then they try the MVP version, and it turns out it is too much of an MVP version, right? It's kind of like, it's not really functioning the way that it should be. Was that something that did you experience that? And how did you go about figuring out like improvements, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is, did we deliver for her? I honestly think that first experience, or probably several experiences, were somewhere between horrible and like effing horrible.
I love it. Yeah.
I think that's how it goes most of the time, maybe all of the time. Like, that's just, the nature of building new things. Like, it's not going to be great at first.
And yet Connie was still in love. Like, she was still giving you chances, right?
Yeah,
She probably didn't have
like,
the best experience, the one that you wanted to deliver, but I'm guessing you were staying in contact with her. You were saying, hey, how was it? Please let us know how we can be better. All those things.
I think this is, much smarter people than I have made sense of this. I believe it's just classic crossing the chasm. The early adopters like being involved in the product development. They're there. In some ways, they're there because it's rough, because it doesn't work well. They like that. Early adopters like being involved in something that connects with them. They connect with the mission and the product and everything else. And you need to treat them like royalty. And obviously we weren't charging her, we were refunding her, every time there was a problem, and so on and so forth. But I think that those early customers are actually attracted to that, rough.
When was the tipping point for you with Plated in terms of, you already had a number of customers, they were testing out this experience? And can you share just real quick what that experience actually looked like? So someone would order a meal and they would receive the ingredients for the meal, or what did it look like?
Yeah, you nailed it. You order, you get all the ingredients portioned out along with a recipe card, teaching you how to cook it.
Got it. And when did you reach a tipping point in terms of customers? And was there, I don't know if this is related to when you did go to Shark Tank, because I want to go there. Was that a big inflection point when you did go to Shark Tank and you talked about Plated? Can you share a little bit about that experience? Like, one, why did you go on Shark Tank? Was it, hey, this is an incredible opportunity for massive like awareness, or what led you to that decision? Was that, and were the results of that decision what you expected, good or bad?
Short answer, yes. I think it's honestly always been a little puzzling to me that this is even a question. I mean, Shark Tank at that time, and I don't know that it's changed all that, substantially, was the like second or so most watched television program on TV. Tremendous amount of reach. Why would you not want that exposure? I mean, there's, why?
Right. What are the cons is what you're saying. Like, why wouldn't you?
Of course, the partnership with experienced business people is helpful. The capital, if you need it, is helpful. But the media exposure is tremendous. So of course you should want that. There really wasn't much of a decision, is what I'm saying. And the results were incredible. I believe at the time that we aired, which was the springtime of 2014. So, the business was already 2 years old and we were already, relatively large. So it was an inflection point. I wouldn't say it was the first inflection point. I mean, we were well along the journey at this point, but it was tremendous. It went in, I believe the show aired in 11 million households, or there's 11 million households that tuned in on Friday nights. And then a very large number that watched on, TiVo and DVR and things that sound dated now, but sort of time shifted over the weekend. 10% of all households in the US watched that show live. So just tremendous exposure. And it was phenomenal. And, we were very beyond excited and grateful for the experience. So, there wasn't
and you saw results right away.
Oh, the website crashed. We were on Heroku as our database provider at that point in time, and they told us it was the single largest database spike they had ever seen.
Wow. That's incredible. That's amazing to hear that it did have that massive impact. I've had experiences in the past, not Shark Tank, but that, we've done some things on media, even some pretty big media channels for previous products. And maybe it was just not the right audience or, for what we were going for. But that's amazing to hear that. Was this before, or was this right after? Because you went through Techstars, you applied to Techstars, you got accepted Techstars Accelerator. Did Shark Tank happen after Techstars?
Yes.
And I just want to be able to know, was that applying to Techstars being, which batch, do you remember what was it like? What year was this?
Our Techstars batch was winter or spring of 2013.
Of 13. For founders thinking of applying to an accelerator, any advice for them? It doesn't have to be particularly Techstars, right? But if you're thinking of applying to an accelerator, are there any advice that you have for them, questions they should be asking themselves, anything that comes to mind? Or based on your experience, yeah.
I would say think of an accelerator as a set of advisors. And so my advice would be for how you think about all advisors, which is be very clear on what you want and whether these folks can actually help you. Because I think that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, spend time and money and equity on advisor relationships that ultimately don't yield anything. Like, I think it's actually rarer than people assume that somebody, can be helpful to them.
Got it. So understand what you want out of that conversation from that individual, and try and have a clear path of what you hope for, and see if that individual can actually help you try and maneuver or get there, right? Is that what you mean, of like having kind of a clear understanding, a clear vision? Okay. Once Plated, you went Shark Tank, demand, the website crashed, the company continued growing, scaling. You were acquired in 2017 by Albertsons Grocery Brands for $300 million. As you scale, what are there any pitfalls? And I know there are many, and I know there's many challenges, but for founders out there that have found product fit, that they are, they're growing at a faster clip, are there any questions you suggest for them to ask themselves, things that you went through, that, any pitfalls that you say, just keep an eye out for this, or anything that comes to mind as the company grows, as the team grows?
Yeah, the first thing, I should have said this at first. Somebody once said this to me, and it stuck with me because I think it's true, which is that the only universally true startup advice is that there is no universally true startup advice. Take this all with, an enormous grain of salt.
Take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think, my actual advice would be to take a lot of advice from a lot of people, and then really try to think hard and synthesize, the why behind it. Like, what is the first principles, sort of, what is underlying the advice, and what actually happened, and, why is or is not that situation analogous to what you're, thinking about. So that all said, I think that especially for very, very rapidly scaling businesses, trying, even though it's a case of planning is invaluable and plans are worthless, nonetheless, like trying to plan, 6 months ahead, not more, but not less, because something on the order of every 6 months, it's an entirely different business. Things do change with scale. And so trying to think 6 or so months ahead and solve the problems that are maybe, roughly speaking, at that time horizon, because other people on the team should be solving the problems that are right in front of you. And if you're trying to solve stuff that's 12 months out, it's probably too far to matter, and or your approximation of what those problems are is wrong. So finding the right time horizon to be thinking about is, I think, an important thing. And it's true for, how you staff and build the team, and how you forecast and finance, and, really the sort of full stack of the business. And, and maybe the other piece of that would be not reinventing the wheel. I think a lot of founders, a lot of engineers, certainly I, had this and probably still do, and try to catch myself, have the urge to reinvent the wheel. We're gonna do everything better. We're gonna do finance better and operations better and everything. And I think the reality is you can't do that. And also it's not worth it, because, you're going to have functions that are more or less impactful to your business. And the things that are less impactful and well-solved problems, don't reinvent them. Don't rebuild QuickBooks. Just use QuickBooks. You don't need to have like an AI-driven spreadsheet that does better. Like, just use the tools that exist. And I think that's sometimes hard to, to see in the moment.
Yeah, that the Swiss knife, where you want to be able for your product to do everything, and it's all concentrating on your strengths. When you sold Plated, again, for founders that are thinking about, they're doing fairly well. They probably have gotten some offers from other players, whether it's in the industry or outside the industry. When you went through that process, are there things in hindsight that looking back, you'd say, I would definitely do this a bit different, or whatever occurred, you know, some lessons from that, that you said, thank God that we did that. And that was really helpful. So whether it's pitfalls, when talking about the sell of, or a merger of your company, in your case, it was an acquisition, I believe. But you know, anything to share for founders out there that might be going through that, questions they should ask themselves?
I think that this is among the more personal parts of these journeys. You know, it's hard to generalize. We sold because we saw our competitor in the public markets, you know, not performing well. We thought that going public, which was our default path, we'd hired the bankers and written our S1. We were on that path. Was not a good path for a while. And because Amazon had just bought Whole Foods, there was a lot of,
I remember
we
that,
thought about to become a lot of M&A activity in our space. And we thought that retail was an important component of the business model over the long term. So we thought that if we didn't partner with somebody, we may end up without a long-term partner and that we'd be at a competitive disadvantage. So, you know, it's a very unique set of circumstances, as I think they often are. And we had managed our cap table in a way that we were proud of. We were able to sell at a price that was a market clearing price where everyone made money, everyone from the last investors down to the warehouse employees. So there weren't hard decisions on that front. And so it just quickly became the right answer in our minds. But it's a very, very, specific and personal answer, based on our own personal life journeys and financial circumstances and the market conditions and everything else. So I don't know how to really generalize that advice other than to, again, just be clear on what you want, how you think about, your own finances, the market conditions, need to sell now versus to keep building. When might there be liquidity again? I mean, it's such a specific, case by case.
Josh, when you were thinking of the possibility of going public, and you hired those investment bankers, I don't know that process. I haven't gone through that yet. I guess they can do like I don't know how you would call it, but they can give you an overview of if it makes sense or not, right? Is it kind of like, if you're thinking of that possibility, the first thing you want to do is actually get an answer for, is this the right moment for that? And you hire people to be able to help you answer that for you. Was that your thought process in terms of when you were thinking about the possibility of going public?
Yes and no. Again, I think it's very difficult to give general answers to these questions. They're highly detail dependent. I would start with your board. This is a case. This is another example of a case where you not only should you not reinvent the wheel, but you can't. Like, this is a regulated, paved pathway. And your board will have, hopefully, if you have a high quality board, will have real experience and thoughts around the level of forecastability in the business, whether you have enough quarters of data that suggests that you could go public. I mean, there's a bunch of relatively sort of straightforward technical details that could help you answer the question of whether you should go spend what is a tremendous amount of time and energy and resources on hire any bankers who may or may not even choose to engage with you based on the stage of the business.
Got it. So let's jump into Season Health. Can you give us just a quick, so I have the premier food as medicine platform targeted to individuals with chronic conditions like diabetes and kidney disease. Can you share a little bit more about that particular experience? Like, so individuals that have these chronic diseases, these are the exact customers that you're helping out and going after. Maybe if you can just clarify a little bit about the customer and the experience that they would have with Season Health.
Yeah. So the customers are health plans. So Season is a food as medicine platform, which means a software platform. We don't make food, we make software, with three key pillars. The first is we run a virtual telehealth clinic, a national telehealth clinic of dietitians. So we're delivering care. The second is a marketplace of food. We integrate with a large and growing number of food companies, grocery stores, medically tailored meal companies, consumer meal companies, everything in between, and a growing list. And the third is a benefits clearinghouse. So help people, members, patients, find and enroll in benefits that they should have, whether that's the public benefits, SNAP and WIC, and others, or their private health plan benefits like post-discharge meals, just the broad universe, and anybody that's engaged with healthcare knows how hard that can be to navigate sometimes. We sell the health plans. We are selling a chronic disease management solution. So the health plan will give us access to their population with a diet-led chronic disease, such as diabetes, kidney disease, high-risk pregnancy. There's a number of these. And we'll deliver care to those health plan members and help them get healthier. And that's how we get paid, is by making people measurably healthier.
Who's the initial customer, just to clarify, like with the health plan?
Yeah.
Oh no, who is it? Yeah. Who's the initial, like, who is it when you said these are health plans, and like, is it, so you're talking about like I don't know, the doctors, who's the one that says we want to be able to work with you, and then we're going to be offering these plans to our members?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally the health plan. So United is a customer, Geisinger is a customer. I mean, it's your health insurance.
Got it.
Who is on the hook financially when you need care.
Got it. Okay. And how you started this in 2019, partnerships, was that when you got started, was that the most ideal and route to take from the get-go? Because I know that you recently announced a partnership with Wellery and Validation Institute as well for your plan. When it comes to partnerships, has that always been from the get-go something that was vital and important for you to be able to get Season Health on the map? Or what did that look like when it came to knocking on the doors of these health plans? Because that's not easy, right? What you've been able to do is extremely hard to get your foot in the door. What worked, and how did you go about doing it?
The way that we define partnerships is, partnerships with health plans. So, it is a very long sales cycle, and it tends to be very relationship driven. So it's been a combination of introductions from investors, attending conferences, past relationships from my co-founder, to some extent myself. My background is not deeply healthcare, but I spent a little bit of time in healthcare. And it's a sales process. I think at the highest level, there's nothing unusual there. It's meet a lot of folks at the top of the funnel and spend the time to move them through the various stages of the sale. It is a relatively long sales cycle, but there's nothing sort of unusual there, if that makes sense.
And were you, from the get-go, were you targeting these what sound right like United Health and massive plans? Or because I don't know anything about the industry, is it are there a ton of players that you're able to kind of reach out to, or there's the leaders and they make up 80% of what the healthcare plan market looks like? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a relatively small market from a number of customers, number of plans standpoint. So, I mean, yes, we have always targeted health plans. They have been the customer forever. We have worked with small plans and large, and pros and cons to both. But we've been speaking to small, medium, and large plans since effectively day one.
Got it. What's very helpful for our community? Anything that we did not cover about season health that you want to, I just want to make sure that a particular area of season health that you want to make sure everyone from our community understands, knows, anything that you like to share?
Yeah, I mean, from a mission and end user standpoint, we are on a mission to greatly reduce the amount of diet-led chronic disease. Very unfortunately, there's a tremendous amount of that in the world, and certainly in the US. I think the most reliable estimate is that 85% of healthcare spend is directly linked to poor diet.
Wow.
So there's a massive problem, and I suppose a massive opportunity, although it sounds weird to say it that way, in helping people be healthier and really ultimately helping them be cheaper, which is what the plan cares about from a business model standpoint. So that's what we're trying to do. I think if there's anything to share with folks, probably not that applicable for a lot of people here, but if your health plan is United or one of the larger ones, we probably have a partnership, and there may be a way for your business to be a customer. So certainly always interested in talking to employers where the dots connect, and we can be part of your health plan or health benefits for you and your employees. If you are in healthcare and you are looking for ways to use nutrition as a lever to drive health outcomes, we'd love to talk, whether that's primary care folks, certain specialists, or otherwise.
I love that. Thank you again for the time.
Thanks, Alejandro.
Take care.